Hi everybody. Hi Petra. So this is a new thing we're trying with locals, and it's a virtual tour through Berlin. I'm gonna share a little bit of my tour on this Facebook Live, and we're gonna drive through Berlin a little bit. Unfortunately today, it was a beautiful day yesterday, very sunny, 16 degrees, but it started raining today, so a little bit colder. But because of this, I'm a tour guide in Berlin, as a lot of you probably know, and since this Corona crisis started and guests had to cancel, nobody can travel anymore, we had to come up with something new, some new thing, and we came up with this virtual tours, where I place my phone in front of the car that I'm in, which is very handy today because it's raining, but in the future we'll try to do some other tours, like maybe walking or on a bike. I just have to figure out how to attach the phone to all these things. Hey Paul, hey Petra, I see your comments. With locals we'll try to share, we had some difficulties, so with locals we'll try to share it on the announcement as well, and hopefully people will join and enjoy it, So when this Corona crisis is over, everybody's of course welcome to come to Berlin again. But for the time being, where people, especially in some countries, are kind of locked into their homes, they can get a tour of Berlin through this little window, So I suggest we start a little bit, or maybe I wait for another minute because I see people joining in. So we are currently standing on this beautiful avenue, which I'm just going to share in a little bit, or right now. Let me wipe the window. So it's a beautiful avenue where I live close to it, and it's called Karl Marx Allee. Was built in the 50s because this avenue was heavily damaged during the Second World War. It was called before Große Frankfurter Straße, but because the Soviets were coming in through the east into the city, there was a lot of fighting going on. A lot of buildings over here were damaged, not to that point that they couldn't be repaired, but at the time in the 50s and after the war, they wanted to rebuild. There was new ideology in East Germany, so how to build. So they kind of built these buildings. They copied them from a model in Moscow, so they're really grand and huge, have balconies everywhere. I can zoom in a little bit here. So if we go up, you see there's like balconies, and there's a beautiful tower on the other side. So yeah, they built this in the 50s, and these were called like the palaces of working class, or for the working class, So these apartments are really beautiful inside, very high ceilings, which was not the case later on when they started building these blocks and in East Berlin to fit in maximum amount of people, which at the time was actually great, because the living conditions before the war in parts of Berlin were terrible, because buildings were built very fast in the beginning of 20th century, with lots of people cramped in apartments, dark hallways, maybe just one toilet or bathroom, or really a toilet, down the hallway. So people had to share, and when these big blocks came, that now kind of look boring, kind of boring architecture. At the time, every family had a new apartment with a bathroom, kitchen. It was very modern. So for the time, it was actually a big thing, So even from the West, people would come over and see what's going on in the East, at that time. So Berlin Wall only came up in 61. So until then, going over between West and East Berlin was still free, so people could walk around, and a lot of people from the East worked in the West, and vice versa, and or visited their families. But because by 1961 the living conditions in East Berlin, where the communism was developing, were getting worse than in the West, you could earn much more money in the West. Lots of people started going over or escaping to the West, So by 1961, more than 3 million people already escaped to West Berlin, and that's why the government decided to build a wall to stop the refugees, to stop people from leaving East Berlin and East Germany. And of course they didn't. They sold it to their people a little bit different. They said, we're building this wall to stop the horrible capitalists and imperialists, from the West, the Nazis, coming over and destroying our beautiful communism. So, but not everything was bad in the East. There were bad things in West. There were bad things in the East. So people still lived. There was as time went by, of course, there was much less liberties. People were being surveillanced. Lots of spies everywhere. So it wasn't beautiful, but people still lived. And today I'm going to show you a little bit of this Berlin. So again, wow, 72 people already, 73. Again, this is a live broadcast from Berlin. And I'm doing this virtual tour because basically we were left with no tourists, in the city. So no one to take around. And I just got cancellations, and we said, okay, well, let's come up with something new. So we said, why not try this with a camera? And show you people, from the comfort of your apartment. You can get all the drinks you want, and food, and have a wonderful breakfast while I'm going to take you around the city. So let's start. I'm gonna switch the camera, and then every now and then I'll stop and tell you a little bit. You can see my face again. You can write, hi Caroline, hi Jerry, how are you? So there's lots of friends are joining in. I'm so glad. This is great. People who wanted to do my tours, or said they want to come over and see Berlin, but now you can get a taste of it, and then when you get time and this crisis is over, you can come over and see it live, so you can have a 360 view. So okay, let's get going. I just need to, luckily, there's not many people in the streets because there's a curfew, not curfew really, but people are not advised to walk around, except if in pairs, or going to the store, to the doctor, or to work. So we have similar restrictions like in other countries. Maybe in some other countries it's even more. Hey Murat, how are you? Murat, just a friend of mine, a new friend of mine that just moved from Britain, into this Corona crisis. So he finally made it, and I'm really glad. So in the back you see these wonderful 2 towers. These are called Frankfurter Tor. The gate, this is one side of this avenue. Have to be careful when driving because you're all watching me, you know. But on the other side to the right, you can see like this white building with lots of windows. That's how they actually planned to do this avenue at first, but then they said, no, you know, this is too not grand enough. So that's why they then decided to build these high buildings with lots of windows. They're all covered in special Meißner tiles. These are very good tiles from Meißen in East Germany. That's close to Dresden. So we're gonna go down one of the busiest streets in East Berlin, which is Warschauer Straße. Not today, but there's lots of young people living here. This area called Friedrichshain is a very nice part of East Berlin where I live. The population is unnaturally young because a lot of people after the wall came down moved to West Germany, just left their apartments, and you know, then throughout the 90s and especially 2000s, a lot of new people moved in here. A lot of Spanish people, Italians, Greeks, you know, after the financial crisis, so the last crisis we had, not in Germany but elsewhere. So sometimes it's very Spanish here. I sometimes call it Little Madrid, and I love that. You know, I love this kind of mixed area that you have all these different people from all over, you know, all these different languages. It's a very young crowd, lots of restaurants, which unfortunately now are closed. But hopefully this will be gone in a couple of weeks or in a month or months, who knows, you know, but of course life will go on again. And I'm excited for the summer but I'm so excited today, you know, doing this and sharing it with you because like just a couple of days ago, I was like, what am I going to do? You know, there's no tours. I mean, I have stuff to do, but this is what I love doing. And it just broke my heart that I couldn't be walking or cycling around or driving, you know, showing people this beautiful city that I love so much. And yeah, it's just amazing that I get to do this. So if you're just joining, we're doing the Facebook Live for With Locals tours, that the company that I work with, who do private tours around Berlin. And because of this Corona situation, you know, we cannot do the tours anymore because there's no tourists. People are not allowed to travel. So we came up with this virtual tour, which we're going to do in the future. Well, we're starting it already today. Later on today, I have a tour with a couple, with two people from Texas. So I'm excited about that. On the left, you can see our trams. So trams are mostly in the east because the West Berlin got rid of the trams in the 50s because they had to replace everything with the buses, which was a new modern thing. In front of me, you can see the beautiful towers. I'm trying to zoom in a little bit. So this is the Oberbaumbrücke. It's Oberbaum Bridge. The yellow building on the left is the former egg storage because this was the port. So they were storing eggs, chicken eggs. But now Universal Music. So everything is changing in Berlin, you know. And this is also... you see the train, the underground train that goes around across the bridge. This is the oldest line in Berlin from 1902. That's when they built the first line of Berlin Underground. Of course, here it's overground, but you know, mostly it's underground. And now we're already at the East Side Gallery, which is the longest part of the wall still existing. And we're gonna drive this way and then go around a little bit so you can see a few interesting things. Hi Marta, how's Switzerland? And Daria, wow, all these people. So Daria is my colleague from the vet school because I'm originally a veterinarian, but I do these tours now, which are so much fun, and I completely switched professions actually. So you can see there's a lot of construction going on. There's a new hotel on the left coming up, you know, on the right as well, new apartments. There's this big white building with very expensive apartments in front. And then you can see in the back already TV tower, kind of hidden and now disappearing. And this area has changed so much in the past because you know, it was actually empty. It was next to the wall, so nobody was really was living here. You know, it was the end of East Berlin. Behind the wall there's a river. I'm gonna do a turn here, which I'm not supposed to really, but oh well, this is all I'm doing for you. Okay, so this is the Berlin Wall. This is East Side Gallery. So in 1990 they asked about 118 artists to put their best works. You know, they were from 21 countries, and they painted this wall with all these different beautiful pieces of art. So I'm gonna go closer a little bit, which you cannot do really when this is full of tourists. But you can see this, see these works. You can see the bridge painted. So every painting talks about something else. Here you can see the masses of people going through the wall after it opened. So all of this, all these artworks are talking about freedom, wall, equality, environment, politics, you know. So it's kind of amazing. I love walking here. It's like no matter how many times you walk, these are the faces of freedom by Thierry Noir, a very famous work of art. Unfortunately here there are a few covered because they're working on this hotel. So once the hotel is done, oh, I have people behind me honking because I'm obviously too slow. So there's another one. This is a detour to the Japanese sector, which the story is about this person from East Germany who was kind of who was a big fan of Japan, but because he couldn't travel really, you know, he always wanted to visit Japan. This was kind of a dreamland for him, and he created this artwork, you know, which is like, you see the wall opening and Fujiyama, Mount Fuji in the back. So after the wall came down, he could finally go to Japan. He even learned Japanese language, and this is the artwork he did, you know. So there's a lot of things like that here. And of course, seeing it live when you come here will be even better. Save our Earth. Let me see. Hi Ryan and Benjamin and Paul and Lucas. So so let me change some. I have to change some settings, I was told, because people who are not my friends cannot comment. So I have to, just a second, I have to change something in settings. I don't know how to do this really. Oh gosh. Okay, just a second. I will try to do this somehow. Lucas, how do I do this? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm just trying to let other people comment, but I'm not sure how to do this really while I'm streaming. So well, my team will have to send me how to do this, Hey guys from With Locals, can you help me? I don't know how to do this on the, so I'll just keep going. Just suggest what I am supposed to do. Yeah, I cannot get into settings really. Okay, I'll try again. Live. Okay, I don't find anything, so I'll just continue, yeah? So, oops. Okay, so we'll go to the center of Berlin, more to Mitte area. By the way, there's a very famous photo on there. It's the famous kiss. See it here between Brezhnev and Honecker, the East German leader, and the Soviet leader at the time in the 70s. And when they met, they kissed. It's actually based on a real photo, so it's not something made up. And that's kind of like a Mona Lisa of East Side Gallery, where all the people stop and take photos, and yeah, it's always very full, but of course full of also people who try to get like signatures for some project that doesn't exist. So if you come to Berlin, and also in other cities, you will see that there's always some people who want to get money from you, for either like supporting them in some kind of project or whatever, for blind and deaf people. Usually they're like little kids running around with forms, so just ignore them or say thank you, no. So we are on the right side. You can see the Ostbahnhof, which used to be the central station of East Berlin. It's over here. Not really now a particularly beautiful building, but it's hi Dado, how are you? So yeah, you can see the landmark of Berlin in the back. This is the TV tower. TV tower is the highest building in the European Union. It's 368 meters high. And actually Berlin just became the biggest city in European Union, after Brexit, because London is not in anymore. So we are now the biggest city, which is also exciting, right? Hi everybody. So whoever is joining us, we're doing this live tour with locals. And I'm trying to show you Berlin from the lens of my phone, you know, whatever I see, you see in the different formats. I hope you're having some drinks. Cheers. I actually do have something to drink here. It's not alcohol, but, you know, cheers. So I hope you're having a beautiful Sunday morning, locked in your apartment, and having some wonderful drinks and food and whatever you do on Sundays, you know. So I'm gonna show you Berlin a little bit more. So we're coming closer to Alexanderplatz, which used to be the capital, the center of East Berlin. A big square, basically the biggest square in Berlin. It's now even bigger than it used to be before the war, when it was smaller and had a lot of old buildings. Now it's a completely new area with a lot of new buildings. You can see on the right side, you can see these blocks, kind of that you can see them in Berlin, East Berlin especially. Of course, also West Berlin has buildings like that, but these are called Plattenbauten. So they were made very fast. You know, you can see the typical structure of the architecture, which is like like just plates, you know, stacked like Legos, one on another. It was very fast and very quick, and not expensive. So that's how they built at that time. And of course, still a lot of space left and right, you know, so there's a new building coming just here on the left by David Chipperfield, the architect who already did a lot of buildings in Berlin. That's a British star architect. So there's a whole bunch of new buildings on your right. This is the white building is a new student hotel. And there's more coming, so they are building here like crazy, you know. We'll see if this coronavirus, which hopefully will not translate into some major financial crisis, but we'll see. But you know, Berlin is rapidly growing and developing. Currently 3.7 million people, but about 40 to 50,000 are moving to Berlin every year. So it's growing fast, but before the war it was even bigger. It had about 4.3 million people. So we're just coming to the historical part of Berlin, where Berlin actually started. Do you see this church in front of us? This is the Nikolas Church, and it's from 1237, so 1237. And this whole part is called Nikolas Quarter. So this is where Berlin started in 13th century. It was all rebuilt in the 80s. So whatever you see, except the church, is all new. It was rebuilt in the 80s, partially in old style, partially in new style. So you can see these the buildings. So Bianca is asking, what is my favorite neighborhood in Berlin? Well, I live in Friedrichshain, which I love. On the right, by the way, this is the City Hall of Berlin, the red building, Rotes Rathaus, or Red City Hall. Yeah, I love Friedrichshain because it's very close to all the other neighborhoods, not all the other, but the exciting ones that I love, which is Kreuzberg, Prenzlauer Berg, and then you have Mitte, which is the central part. You see on the right Marienkirche, or the St. Mary's Church, which is one of the oldest churches also in Berlin. And the other side of Alexanderplatz. I will try to just turn a little bit maybe, so you can see a little bit of the other side of Alexanderplatz. So this is the view. Let me take this off a little bit. So yeah, see, there's a big ball on the top, and when it's sunny you can see like a cross appearing in the middle. The sun creates like a big cross. This is the central, this is the big Berlin Rotes Rathaus. So this is where the mayor works, the Red City Hall. And there's a big construction here as well, because they're building the new extension to the subway. So U5 is going to be extended. They say this year it's going to be opened. We'll see about that. Hopefully, you know, in Berlin you never know when something will be opened, because it takes sometimes years and years, like with the new airport. In the back you can see already the dome of the new castle. This one, you know, that it's just being finished, also supposed to open this year. The castle was destroyed in the Second World War, not completely. It was actually still there, but the Eastern government, for the ideological reasons, decided to completely remove it. They blew it up. They blew up the existing building, and they instead of that they built Palace of the Republic, which served as a parliament to East Germany. It was also called Honecker's House of Lights, or Store of Lights, or, you know, Shop of Lights, because there were all these beautiful lights inside. You know, this building was yeah, it was in a certain communist style. You know, some people loved it, some people don't like it, you know, but now it's anyway not there anymore because they decided to remove it. It was very controversial because for some people this was the only building they knew, you know, and it used to be their kind of parliament. And once it was removed, they started building this new castle, which is going to be finished this year. So it's basically based on the old castle, and it's just a copy. You know, 3 sides are the same as before. One side is modern, that you're going to see in a little bit, and it's done by Franco Stella, Italian architect from Florence. So this hotel on the left is actually, it's a big building, new building, but it used to be a hotel, Palace Hotel, where actually my father stayed. He was actually here on the 9th of November 1989 on a business trip, when, you know, the wall came down, and it was quite a surprise for him, you know, that all this, the historical thing, actually a big thing in history, our history, was happening while he was here. So on the left you can see the castle, and we're just driving onto the museum island. So I'm going to drive in a little bit, show you a little bit. Yeah. Hey everybody, how are you doing? If you haven't, if you're not bored yet with me driving you around Berlin, you know, or whoever is joining us, this is a live broadcast on Facebook. So with Locals. With Locals is a company that I joined 4 years ago as a freelance tour guide, actually, and we've been working wonderfully together for the past 4 years. You know, I'm doing tours every day, except now that coronavirus struck. But, you know, this is the new version. So we're trying to do these live tours, and I'm very excited about it. I have, in the next 3 days, I already have like tours scheduled, mostly from people from the US. So they will be in the afternoon, because you know, in the morning they still sleep. But anybody can book me, you know, so just go on with locals page, or you can book me there. But anyway, let's continue with this tour of Berlin on this rainy Sunday. Luckily, it's not raining too much, but you know, it's nicer if it's sunny. So this is a beautiful cathedral. Maybe I can do it from here as well. I could take the roof off, really. So it's the Central Cathedral of Berlin, Berliner Dom, which is from, actually, it's a kind of in a Baroque style, but it's actually from 1905, so it's not that old. You have, it's beautiful inside. The domes are actually new. You know what? I think I'm gonna just park here and go outside a little bit. So I can show you a little bit. Let me try this. Ooh, it's cold. Oh. Okay. So we're out. I hope you can still hear me. I don't know how the wind is actually messing up with the sound. But this is the museum island. You can see the castle coming up, which will be the new big museum actually. Then you can see Friedrichswerdische Kirche in the back. That's the red church over there, hidden behind these white buildings. Then the historical Deutsches Historisches Museum, the pink building in front of us with lots of German history. The old museum, Altes Museum, where Hitler used to have his speeches, you know. This is the first museum that was built on this island. Well, the old museum, Altes Museum. Behind it is a new museum, which was reconstructed by David Chipperfield as well. This is the cathedral, which is kind of an amazing building. I love it very much, but it's being renovated as well. They're doing this tower, you know, an amazing entrance. And then there's the old National Gallery in the back, where you can see a lot of paintings inside, a beautiful gallery. So when you come here, you can visit it. Okay, let's go on. We're gonna go inside, have a drink. Hey, hey. So guys at With Locals, whoever is following me, you can log in onto my Facebook and maybe change the settings. You can maybe help me with this if you can do it, so everybody can comment. I just had a little bit. Okay, let's go on. So we'll drive around. I'm going to actually show you where our Chancellor or Prime Minister, you know, Angela Merkel, is self-isolating. So she's currently working from home because, you know, she's being tested for coronavirus. I don't think she has it. She was in close proximity of a person who had it, so that's why she's at home. But in front of us, you can see these beautiful colonnades where you can still see quite a lot of holes inside, you know. If you look, if I zoom in a little bit, see all these holes, they're all from the Second World War. There was a lot of shooting going on here. And this is the newest addition on the right. It's the James Simon Gallery. James Simon was a Jewish collector who actually donated the bust of Nefertiti to the new museum, so the Egyptian queen. And this is a beautiful building designed by also David Chipperfield, opened last August. And let me try to do this. So, our chancellor is actually, I could just go next to the building, you know, it's actually free access for everyone, you know, you can go up the stairs, it's just right there, it's very low key. But she's in this building in the middle, this orange building. So that's where she is self-isolating. This is part of this river, or the canal is part of the river Spree, which goes around the island. This particular side, this canal will be, the plans are that it will be changed into or turned into a public swimming pool by 2025. We'll see about that. But yeah, it goes on and then joins with the other canal into the river. Kind of not tracking time, really. Okay. Hi everybody. Let's go on. So we'll drive through the main avenue Unter den Linden, where you have the Opera House, the Humboldt University, the book burning place. We'll get to the Brandenburg Gate or Brandenburger Tor. So, and then all the way to the Holocaust Memorial. On the left, again, Deutsches Historisches Museum or German Historic Museum. Wow, this is so wonderful because everything is so empty. So it feels like I'm like really alone here. There's no tourists anywhere except on the other side of this lens, you know. You're now virtual tourists. So I just wanted to show you a little bit of Berlin. This is the Opera House. The old Opera House, about 278 years old. It was just renovated, reopened in 2017. The Humboldt University on the right. There's somebody taking photos, so there are still some tourists. And then we have, I'm just gonna have to take this. So this is the Babel Platz. In the middle of this square, the 20,000 books were burned on 10th of May 1933 by the Nazi students, because this building here was the library, which is now the law school, but it used to be the library. So books by famous, by famous authors like Erich Kästner, Heinrich Heine, Karl Marx, Sigmund Freud, they were all being burned because they were not according to the Nazi ideology. Also a lot of Jewish authors. So this is Unter den Linden, or under the linden trees, because the linden trees are in the middle. They're still finishing this last part of the subway here, which will connect the U5 all the way to Hauptbahnhof, the central station. And it looks pretty empty now, of course. Kind of grim. It's a gray day, kind of. It's raining, and but much less gray than it used to be when this was East Berlin, where most of the buildings were really gray and a lot of them falling apart. The Russian embassy on the left, a huge embassy actually, the largest embassy in Berlin. This gap on the right, this is where the Polish embassy will come. Then you have Madame Tussauds wax museum. And you can see already Brandenburg Gate in front of us, which I'll try to get closer. And Brandenburg Gate is of course the main landmark, celebrating also the unity of Germany. You know, this is a recent event, of course, from 31 years ago, when the Berlin Wall came down in 1989 on 9th of November. But of course it was built much earlier. It was built in 1791, you know, acting like the end of Berlin. Actually, this was where Berlin then ended, because behind it was just a park. So that used to be the hunting ground of the king. Now it's a public park, Tiergarten, a beautiful big park, 4 kilometers long about. And this is the Brandenburg Gate. Look at this beautiful square. It's called Pariser Platz, or Paris Square. And you know, when Napoleon came here in 1806, that's when France won the war with Prussia. He took the quadriga, which is on top. He took it down and took it with him to Paris, and he put it in Louvre Museum. Quadriga is the 4 horses with the goddess of victory on the top, which originally was goddess of peace, Irene, actually. Whoops. Somebody just honked. And yeah, 8 years later, the Prussia was a kingdom over here in this area. Prussians won the war with France, so they went back to Paris and brought it back. And it's been there ever since, you know. Came down one more time after the war for reconstruction, but otherwise it's been always there. So in the back you can see the tower. It's shaking a little bit because yeah. So we're next we're going to go or drive to the Gendarmenmarkt, which is this beautiful square, one of the most beautiful ones actually in Berlin, and then end the tour at Holocaust Memorial and Reichstag, which I'll try to get as close as possible. It's weird, I'm not getting any comments anymore, so I don't know what's going on. But probably people cannot comment or something. But you can hear me, so I hope. So this is the new normal, I guess, you know, doing the tours through this with this camera, where you can comfortably sit out at home having a drink, and I'm taking you around. So you can do different cities, you know, every day a different city, and just stay at home. Just check the tours on with locals, and there's lots to see. There's a person running. See, people. We actually see a lot of people running around now, because this is kind of the only activity people can still do besides going to a store or a doctor, you know. So I also read that unfortunately domestic crime has gone up a lot because people are stuck in their homes, you know, with children and kind of forced to be together all the time, 24/7. So that doesn't sound too nice, but let's hope we get through this. So next square is called Babel Platz, and it's a beautiful, one of the nicest squares in Berlin actually. Just gonna go around and then show you the view from the other side. So there are 2 churches, 2 cathedrals, and a theater in the middle. There were the first church, which is the French church, I'm going to show you once we turn, was built in 1701. So this was the time when the Huguenots, the Protestants, actually came from France, about 20,000 of them, I think. They settled in Berlin and in this area, you know, and they built their own church because Berlin was always welcoming people that, you know, are from all these different religions and different thinking, and except for the Second World War or the Nazi times when it was very restricted, you know, and a terrible time in German history. But I have to applaud Germans how they dealt with it. Of course, they were on the losing side, but you know, there's everything out there to learn, to never forget about the Nazi crimes. So there's not many countries who actually have the balls to do that, you know. So Germans don't hide it. You know, there's everything is out there to learn, the memorials, the camps, everything. So you can always learn about it and never forget, which is important, you know, especially in this kind of times. Okay, so this is a beautiful square. This is the German Cathedral. Next to it is the German Church, the one with the dark dome. Then a beautiful Konzerthaus Berlin, which used to be a theater, but now it's a concert hall, which was rebuilt, you know, because it was heavily damaged in the Second World War. Both of the cathedrals and the churches, everything was damaged and rebuilt. This is the French cathedral, so the French and a German. You see how similar they are? They're almost identical with some different designs on it, but the building itself is identical. And then the French church is the one with the red roof, which is from 1701, now currently actually restaurant. Yeah, so this is one of the most beautiful squares, I would say, you know, with beautiful concerts in July when they create symphonic concerts outside, people sit everywhere. Then in December you have a beautiful Christmas market. So people come here for the whole month and, you know, just enjoy their time. Okay, so we'll head to the last stop of this tour, which is the Holocaust Memorial, a memorial to 6 million murdered Jews of Europe. First, I'm actually going to go here. So you can see also Potsdam Platz a little bit. And then we'll end up there. So hi everybody, whoever joined us just recently. This is a live broadcast Facebook Live broadcast of the tour of Berlin that I'm doing in cooperation with locals. It's an online tour, basically a virtual tour that well, for me it's live because I see everything through the wall, through the window, not the wall. I'm not that advanced. Yeah, so this started because, you know, we couldn't do the tours anymore because there's no tourists in the city, and we came up with this idea to do it online. So enjoy. So now we're approaching Potsdam Platz, which is kind of the middle center of Berlin, with all this beautiful new architecture in front of us. There are three major buildings. On the left you can see a big building which used to be the Luftwaffe Ministry, where Hermann Göring was in charge during the Nazi times. So this is where the Air Force, the Nazi Air Force headquarters were. And Potsdamer Platz is just going to open now. There are three tall buildings, the Deutsche Bahn, German Railways building, then the Kohlhoff Tower. In the middle is the Brown building, kind of built in reminds me in a kind of a New York style building. It's made of brick, or at least covered with brick. And then there's a third one, the Renzo Piano, like on the left. See, these are these three buildings. It's a beautiful site. Okay, it's red now, so I can show you a little bit like this. It's an amazing architecture they created here, because this is the on the right there's a Ritz-Carlton. This was all destroyed during the war, and then of course when the wall came up as well. So they because the wall was going through this area, you know, there was nothing built left or right. Where we are actually, we are still on the eastern side, but in the middle of the former death strip. So the wall was just in front of us. There's still a piece of the wall. You can see here a little bit on the right. See, these are pieces of the wall, because the wall used to be here. There's still large construction going on. And I wish I could read your comments. I don't know why it's not working. But now we are in front of, for all my Slovenian friends, there's a little piece of, see this little grapevine here? I'll try to, this in the middle, there's a little grapevine that is growing. This is the daughter of the oldest grapevine in the world, that was donated or given as a present by our ambassador Marta Kost at that time to Niedersächsische Botschaft or embassy. And you know, it's the oldest grapevine, over 450 years old, from my hometown Maribor, where I come from. So this is a little piece of Slovenia over here. And we're just, I will do a turn. This is the Holocaust Memorial. It's a large memorial, the largest memorial actually in the area for 6 million murdered Jews of Europe. That is centrally placed here in the former death strip, where there was a lot of free space, because East Germany, between the walls, there were two walls, and in the middle you had the death strip where they would shoot people who would try to escape. and this is a kind of a masterpiece, a beautiful work, at least for me, by Peter Eisenman. I will get out. So this memorial consists of 2,711 stele, or blocks, creating this magnificent work. They have no signatures, nothing is on it. They're just plain concrete blocks, representing, well, the architect actually leaves everyone interpret the way they want. So there's lots of interpretations, you can see whatever, you can see coffins, you can see a Jewish cemetery, you can see concentration camp, whatever you want to see, but it's a large area. It's 2,711 blocks. There's a new building coming back there. The US Embassy in the middle, and the park in the back. So this is kind of it. I'll throw in another extra. So we're gonna drive to the German Parliament, or Reichstag. Reichstag is the building from 1894, and it's being used as a German Parliament, like it was meant to be in the beginning when it was built, of course. But then, because it was standing in the western part of Berlin, and the capital of Germany, of West Germany, was in Bonn, this was kind of an abandoned building. It was fixed up, but never really used as a parliament during the Cold War and during the separation of Germany, because the parliament, the Bundestag, was actually in Bonn. And East Berlin, East Germany, had their capital was East Berlin. So, I already told you where the Palace of the Republic, which acted as their parliament, was. So another look at Brandenburg Gate, the other side, where usually a lot of concerts are going on. You can see also this line in the middle of the street, the double brick line. We're just crossing it. So now we're in West Berlin, back to East Berlin. So I'm just playing a little bit, just going across, back and forth. We're back in East Berlin, we'll cross to West Berlin again. So, the wall was very zigzag. See, this is the line. This is where the Berlin Wall used to stand. And this is already Reichstag in front of us, with all this beautiful modern architecture in the back. Over there. By the river. So I'm going to try to go in front of the Reichstag. It's a little bit restricted right now for the cars, but we'll see how far I can get. And then we'll finish the tour over there. So shout out to everyone who is watching this virtual tour. Thank you for joining, and I hope you enjoyed this Sunday morning driving around with me. You can tell your friends if they feel bored and they want to do a private tour of Berlin. They can always contact me. And book a tour, which can last from 1 hour, 2 hours, as much as you want. I'm open to suggestions, so this is a fully customizable tour. You can do We can do Jewish tours, we can do art tours, I do bike tours, I do secret districts tour, graffiti tour, West Berlin tour, Potsdam tour, all kinds of tours, you know, so just to name it what you're looking for, and you can do anything. So there's no police, so this is the German Parliament, Reichstag. Isn't that a beautiful view? So I'll do like this. Hi. So thank you very much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this live transmission, if I can call it this way. Maybe I'll do another tour, you know, live tour, free tour online again, you know, for you people outside or home, wherever you are in the world. As I said, you can book me for tours. You can go to the website. I have like, it's actually a With Locals website, but you can go to www.withlocals.com and then just search for me under Berlin. And I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully next time will be technically better with me being able to read the comments as well, because they disappeared somewhere, and you know, I don't want to go through technical stuff while I'm doing this live broadcast. By the way, this is the Chancellery. This is where Angela Merkel works, or German Chancellor. She's currently still the Chancellor, and being very good at it currently, you know, as a crisis manager. So anyway, thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful week and Sunday afternoon. Yeah, bye.